So the Barrie Colts are getting ready to take on the North Bay Battalion this weekend, and the battalion celebrating a milestone this year. It's their 10th anniversary, and today we're going to have a special guest, the play-by-play voice on your TV, Ranjan Rupal. Did I say it right?
Yeah, Ranjan. It rhymes with dungeon, Rupal.
Rupal? No, sorry for butchering it there for a second. But
No, it's
anyways,
okay.
so glad to have you here. And you've been doing the play-by-play for the North Bay Battalion since they arrived in the city of North Bay, and you've seen it all. Tell me about the impact this team's had in the community.
It's been enormous. It was a big hole for 11 years when the Centennials left and went to Saginaw. And I think, life goes on, but there's a big hole 2 nights a week all winter long where you have to try to find something else to do, something else to believe in. And there's nothing like junior hockey to get 3,000 or 4,000 people in a community who would otherwise have no reason to gather and to believe in one thing, to get into an arena and cheer for the same team. I think it's enormously beneficial for a community to have that kind of a lightning rod to focus on, and the battalion certainly have been that.
And it's really the community is really rallied around this team. I remember when they moved to North Bay, just the outpouring of support that the battalion had for that first few seasons, even going on a championship run to face the Guelph Storm. It must have been exciting stuff to be able to call those games.
It was very Cinderella that first season, and at the time, we started the first 9 games on the road because the arena wasn't quite built yet, renovated for OHL standards. And so the team, I think, was maybe had a 500 record in those first 9 games. And so we didn't know what to expect, but it was fun. There was big crowds. And then suddenly after Christmas, we make a few additions. We bring over Ben Thompson from Kitchener, who's a hard-hitting guy who, you think Liam Arnsby's a hard-hitting guy. Ben Thompson could put people through the boards. And, the belief just started at about February that this team was special and that they believed in each other and that they wanted to they came from Brampton. There was no passion and feverish fan base. And they wanted to show something to this fan base and impress them, because for 3 or 4 years, many of these Brampton battalion players didn't have that kind of support and never really felt it when they're playing a home game.
And we even saw that last year, how that momentum from the crowd it's still there. Like I was there for the Barrie Colts when they were in there in the second round, and that Memorial Gardens, it's loud. Just the passion that the fans have. You can tell that the battalion players, they're feeding off that.
They do, and it's the acoustics of the building. It has a low-hanging roof, as you see, consequently a low-hanging scoreboard, and the sound just seems to go up, hit that, and then come right back down again. And so when the fans get behind it, they really get into it. And I remember in that first season, you may remember Brendan Miller. Mm-hmm. He was kind of like a long-haired defenseman and voted as having the best hair, Mr. Head and Shoulders. But he was heart and soul for that team. Brendan Miller, number 22 on the back end. He's back in the American Hockey League now. He's really extended his career. He came out in the playoffs in the first round, and he looked around and he went back into the dressing room and says, "Guys, it's nuts out there. You're not going to believe it." And so that's something that has stuck with me, just that honest, true sentiment that Brendan felt that day.
And even as broadcasters, we kind of get excited too about that when we've got those fans and you're just feeding off the emotions of the crowd. And I'm sure for you, you've had now a couple of great runs with the battalion as the play-by-play guy. You must get pretty excited when you can go on the microphone.
I do. I do get excited for every game because you never know when a game is going to be your last, right? And so I try to enjoy every game as if it's going to be my last. And we had early success. Let's say that it's a 10-year history. We had 3 years of success, maybe 3 years of wandering through the desert, pandemic, and now 3 years of success again. And so thinking back to wandering through the desert and the pandemic, it's really fun to have championship caliber hockey again for a third straight season. And that definitely makes it exciting to be behind the mic.
And there was a lot of questions coming into this season for the North Bay Battalion. Would they be sellers or would they be buyers? The Eastern Conference, it's been wide open all year. And, the battalion not selling and keeping those key pieces and adding some great players from Sarnia there at the trade deadline and looking like they could go on for another deep run like last season.
I think there was a lot of wondering going on in the fan base. And just like Barrie, North Bay is a very knowledgeable fan base. And so there was a lot of thinking that, well, you can go to the Eastern Conference Finals twice, but you don't really hang around that third year. You should be going down the escalator at that point. And so while the fan base was, wondering what was going to happen, I don't think Adam Dennis or the coaches were wondering. I believe that with so much hockey IQ in that group, Adam Dennis, Ryan Houlihan, the coach, Bill Holder, and Scotty Ray, the assistants, and the scouting staff. Charlie Abbott is the head of scouting now. That they recognize that there's still a lot of meat on the bones here, and with a goaltender like Dom DiVincentis and a backender like Ty Nelson, what they didn't calculate was that Van Steensel, Wakely, and Romani were going to be out of this world, and that Romani was going to be approaching a 50-goal season. That's found money, really. And so I think early on they decided that we are not going to sell at the deadline unless for some reason the wheels of the bus fall off. And they made a determination that we are going to go for it. We're going to spend first 3 months of the season really evaluating possible acquisitions. And you look at the acquisitions and they are very, I want to say sneaky good. They're not just picking players from the Peterborough Petes and hoping that they can, lightning can hit twice in the same spot. But they went out and got players like Bronson Ride, who really stiffens the back end with his, not only his size, but his demeanor, which has a bit of a nasty edge to it, kind of like Riley Bruce did back in the days. And then you have the LeBlanc twins, who, for someone in the Eastern Conference, the LeBlanc twins were very enigmatic. They always were in the Western Conference. We didn't get to see them a whole lot. We knew that there was plenty of talent there, but they moved around from team to team. We never really saw what they could do until this year, where they started to show some tremendous gifts. And we're seeing that in full bloom now. Andrew LeBlanc coming off a 3-point night on the weekend. And now obviously Sandis Vilmanis, another one of those Western Conference enigmas who we heard about and saw his stats, and they were pretty good stats. He was a 5th-round pick of the Florida Panthers. And then when you see him on the ice, wow, this is a talented guy. And Florida Panthers GM Bill Zito agrees, and on Saturday gave him a pro contract. But when he is out there, he is quite something to watch. And for him to slot in on the second line, credit to Adam Dennis and Ryan Houlihan for finding a guy like that and adding him in that kind of sneaky good way that I described.
And for the battalion right now, they're within striking distance of the Sudbury Wolves for top spot in that Central Division. The rivalry this year must be something else, the Highway 17 rivalry between North Bay and Sudbury.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, Mike, because for almost all of the 10 years that the two North Bay has been in existence, either we were on the escalator going up and they were on the escalator going down, or we were on the top floor and they were on the bottom floor. And so, yeah, there was one year we had 8 games against them, being our natural rival, eight games. And when we had 15 out of 16 points. And so it was like that. You don't really build rivalries just because you beat up the same team 8 times in a row. You need a playoff round, like North Bay and Barrie have.
Yeah.
Numerous occasions. And you get that rivalry from that, and the intensity and the dislike amps up. Now, for the first time, Sudbury is at the top floor, North Bay is at the top floor. We've had plenty of hockey between the two teams, and it's been rough, and it's been highly contested, and their fans come over, and we don't like the way their fans cheer, and I'm sure the same goes to the Sudbury Arena when the North Bay fans go over there, Troops Nation. So we got something special in store. I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse, but there could be a second or third round matchup.
Well, I think that's probably a fair assessment, because if those two teams can meet in the playoffs, they haven't met since they were still the Brampton Battalion. So it'd be great to have that Highway 17 rivalry alive and well, especially with playoff hockey. And even if it goes 7 games, that would be something else.
Well, it was a playoffs. You talk about the Brampton Battalion. North Bay, it hasn't been since the Centennials that the North Bay has been engaged with Sudbury in a junior hockey playoff series. And it was my first sight of Jake Smith coming in relief in the playoffs in 2013 in Sudbury because I wanted to scope out this team that was moving to North Bay. And he was Jake Smith, and he was battling, and we lost the game eventually, and that was it. But Sudbury moved on; they had a great team. But junior, it was a real thrill to see the battalion and the Wolves. But that was Brampton, and maybe this year we'll see North Bay and Sudbury.
And then, of course, Brampton coming back to the OHL circuit next season. It's got to be a little strange when this new Brampton team comes to North Bay to face the Battalion.
Yeah, that is going to be really odd. And I think I'm wondering for guys like, well, none of the players on the roster now obviously had anything to do with the Powerade Center, but Ryan Houlihan did. And so when and Scott Abbott, the owner of the North Bay Battalion, when they go back to that arena, I'm sure they'll know it very well, and I'm sure they'll have to sort of find their way in the visitors side of things. But it will be a surreal experience for them, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out, and even with the playoffs just around the corner. So, Ranjan, thank you very much for doing this, and enjoy this run.
Hey, thanks for having me. This was fun, and that was a great series against Barrie last year. And I thought that they were going to be right there again this year with Edward Chalet, but we'll have to talk about that at some other time.
Well, you never know. We'll have to maybe see about next season. But Ranjan, thanks for doing this, and we'll talk to you again soon.
You bet.
So that was Ranjan Rupal, the play-by-play voice of the North Bay Battalion on your TV. The Barrie Colts, they're going to be hosting North Bay on Saturday, and then they make their final trip to the Memorial Gardens on Wednesday, March 20th. So 2 more games to go between the Colts and the Wolves. And it's great to see just the success that North Bay has been able to have on the ice since coming back in the Ontario Hockey League. I know when they were in Brampton, attendance was an issue, and the environment there wasn't the greatest or atmosphere. Like, the team did great on the ice. Stan Butler did a great job with that team, but you just didn't have the fan support. But you see that fan support in North Bay right now. So it's great to connect with Ranjan, get his take on the last 10 years and just what the Battalion have meant to the city of North Bay. So let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the North Bay Battalion. Have you been enjoying having the Battalion in North Bay? Are you excited about this run? They could catch the Sudbury Wolves for top spot in the Central Division. You just never know. And it's going to be fun. Even just that rivalry. We were touching on it there. It's great to see the Highway 17 rivalry alive and well. So put your comments down below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.